That's why I am Theologia, and we have also a lot of Theologos, but also a lot of Johns. But the name Theologia and Theologos is not very common in the rest of Greece. So when I went to the university in order to study history, they were asking my name. I was answered to them, my name is Theologia. And they were like, your department is not here. You have to go to Athens. No, I want to study history. It's just my name. This is a small funny story about the name Theologia. My little cousin. So we are going to stand here for a little bit. We are in the village of Chora. The village of Chora was settled in the 13th century and flourished in the 17th century. The house that you can see today here are after the 17th century. The oldest one is from 1626. The architecture of Chora is unique. All the houses are connected by the rooftops. All the houses are very close one to another. When people wanted to build their houses, they built them as closer to the monastery as they could in order to have the protection of St. John. In the end, they made a fortress all around the monastery of St. John, and now the protection goes both ways. All the houses are connected by the rooftop, so in case of attack, the residents could use the rooftop in order to go from the one house to another and inside of the walls of the monastery of St. John. The houses in the village of Chora have 3 or 2 floors high. The 3rd floor is there in order to indicate that the owner is a rich man. The first floor has the service rooms, so we have the kitchen, the bathroom, and the rooms of the servants, of course back in the 17th century. The 2nd floor is the main living room, and the 3rd floor, the bedrooms. If there is no the 3rd floor, the bedrooms are also on the 2nd floor. And now you can sit right here. It's the perfect spot if you want to take beautiful photos of the monastery of St. John. But this was making sense.
That's right. Quit spending all that money on clothes, women.
Buy carpet
Where was all
instead.
their money coming from? How did they make the money?
Only from the trade back in the days, and they were also making cultivation. They were doing more agricultural activities than they are doing today in the 17th century. So we had back in the 17th century trade, agricultural activities and fishing. Today is fishing, tourism.
Fishing and tourism.
And that's all. We can walk, we can go towards the... We cannot make any change inside or outside of the house without taking the permission of the archaeology. So, having a house in Chora became very expensive. The house became very expensive to be maintained. Most of the residents sold their houses here in Chora and bought a house in Scala. One house here in Chora costs 1 million euros. Most of the houses now are owned by rich, famous people from all over the world, and most of them are vacational houses that open in the summer and be preserved in the winter.
Who are some of the famous people that have their houses here?
The most famous people. I'm not sure about their names, and that's why they are coming in this island, because we don't know their names. And they are staying in peace, right? They are quiet. But I know that back in the days, David Bowie was living here, had a house in Patmos. The Patmians didn't know his name, and they called him Bois. My dear group, please prepare your blue cards, your entrance ticket for the Monastery of St. John, and remember that photos are allowed only where the sky is above you. Before we enter, let me tell you something.
So they are allowed or not allowed in here?
They're allowed only where the sky is above you. You will see. In the main yard, you can take photos and videos. Inside of the church and inside of the museum, you cannot.
Got it.
In the village of Hora, the houses goes from the mothers to the daughters, not from the fathers to the sons. Because in this island we had midwives. The men were leaving, they were going to become captains, and the houses had to stay to remain in the family. When you see a knocker looking like a hand, this means that the house has women, has daughters. The owner has daughters. If the hand have a ring, it means that all the daughters are married. If you don't see a ring, it means that maybe one or two of the daughters are not married, and if you are lucky enough, you can knock the door and drink a coffee. You may be married.
And drink girls rule.
We can stay here for a little bit, because inside of the yard, if you want, you can sit, so you can stand. In the entrance of the monastery of St. John. Above the door, you can see a mosaic depicting St. John, the theologian, holding the gospel. At the beginning is the word, and the word is for the God, and God is the word. St. John was the only one who said that Jesus Christ and God was the word, and that's why he became theologian. Above this mosaic, you can see a hall. This hall makes this entrance called Phonias, which means murderer. In case of attack, the monks were closing the door and they were pouring hot oil and hot water to the attackers. The monastery are 15 meters high.
Just to figure out how we do it. Now, about the monastery now. In here, the monk
Could we just start walking towards the museum?
I would rather have everybody because we're gonna get lost and
No, we're not gonna get lost.
we'll
Now we are inside. Can everybody hear me well?
If we're
No?
if we're early,
We are inside the monastery of St. John. This monastery was built in 1088. So our story begins in 1088 when a humble monk from the mountain Latros of Asia Minor wanted to build a monastery in a place where his heart could find peace. He traveled a lot. He went to Kos. He built a monastery there, but this was not the place his heart wanted because Kos was very crowded. If you want, come closer to me. Thank you. It was very crowded. Perfect. So he came in Patmos and he found an island looking more like a desert. But he knew that this was the place where St. John received the visions and wrote the book of the Revelation. The monk Christodoulos didn't have the money, didn't have the power, didn't have the builders in order to build a monastery here, so he made a long trip. He went to Constantinople, Istanbul nowadays, and there he found the emperor Alexius I Komnenos, and asked him for the permission in order to build a monastery in Patmos. Alexius at first was skeptical. He didn't know what he was about to give. So he sent spies in this island, and that's why we know that this island was looking like a desert. Meanwhile, the mother of the emperor, the Empress Anne, saw something to this monk, something from the god, and pursued her son to give to him anything his heart wanted. This is a power that only the mothers can have, to inspire their sons, even if the sons